So welcome everyone. We're really excited that you're joining us as we kick off our Spring Innovative Cities Lecture Series. We have quite a few exciting topics to share with you this semester. I'd like to start with our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge in Milwaukee that we are on traditional Potawatomi, Ho-Chunk, and Menominee homeland along the southwest shores of Michigamme, North America's largest system of freshwater lakes, where the Milwaukee, Menominee, and Kinnickinnic rivers meet, and the people of Wisconsin's sovereign Anishinaabe, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Oneida, and Mohican nations remain present. We also encourage you to take a look at who is on the land before you and learn about the cultural aspects of Native Americans. So welcome. So we're excited to kick off this semester. We have quite a few. We have a total of 6 Innovative Cities lectures. They're all virtual. We also have an in-person event on April 23rd. Our next topic will be February 21st, Rethinking Passenger Rail Options. And you always can take a look at those that are coming up over the next couple of months. So today we're going to learn about livable cities for all ages. I love talking about this in my various classes because things that seniors want, usually everybody's wanting in their communities. We are joined by 2 AARP experts who are working both nationally and locally here in Wisconsin. Darrin is an Associate State Director of Community Outreach for AARP Wisconsin, and Suleyman is a Senior Methods Advisor at the AARP Public Policy Institute. He's specifically working with the new updated Livability Index and does a lot of the data collection. We ask that you post your comments in the chat, and I might interrupt them and we'll have a little chat during their presentation. Otherwise, we will allow some time at the end for discussion and questions that you might have. We are going to have AICPCM credit for this. They're having some difficulties with their system right now, so it's not up after the lecture. We will be posting and sending you an email when it's available for you to log your credits for today. So welcome, Darrin and Suleyman. I'll pass it on to you. I'm excited that you're joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin, and good afternoon. Greetings from Washington, D.C. My name is Suleyman Bahceci, and I'm Senior Methods Advisor with the AARP Public Policy Institute. Thank you for the invitation, and I am delighted to have the opportunity to talk about the Livability Index. I'll start, and I will do live demo, and I will pass it to Darrin to talk about the local projects. Let's talk about why we create the Livability Index. As you all know, population of the United States is aging rapidly. People over the age of 65 are expected to outnumber those age 18 and younger by 2034. That's just a decade away, if you think about it. AARP research results have consistently show that the older adults, they want to stay in their homes and communities as they age. But many communities aren't designed to meet their needs, and communities must have the right mix of services, amenities, and features that ensures that our neighborhoods are the right fit for everyone. According to the AARP 2021 Homelands Community Preference Survey, these are the most important community features and services listed here. Convenient grocery stores and healthcare services, high quality healthcare services, affordable houses. They are located near the convenient services. And opportunities for the residents to participate in community decision-making bodies to discuss important issues that impact their community life. I would like to read from the AARP policy book the definition of livable community. Livable community is one that is safe and secure, has affordable and appropriate housing and transportation options, and offer supportive community features and services. So once we have all these in place, those resources enhance personal independence, allow residents to age in place, and foster residents' engagement in the community's civic, economic, and social life. We created the Livability Index so that people can find community data across a range of categories all in one place. So it's designed to give relevant and timely insights into community life. The index can be a starting point for community members and local leaders to learn how livable their communities are and what they can do to improve their quality of life. And the index info on every neighborhood can be helpful for anyone who is considering a move. Livability Index platforms across nearly every neighborhood and community in the US for services and amenities that affect people's lives and the most. So this free web-based tool provides the clearest picture yet of how well a community meets the current and future needs of people of all ages. The Livability Index shows what communities look like today and provides resources to help them improve over time. Please go to aarp.org/livability index to find your community score by entering your address, zip code, city name, county, or state. The platform provides the data to catalyze community conversations that can lead to positive change. Keeping the vision in mind, all the communities support residents across the lifespan in realizing their fullest and potential ability to age in place. And again, the goal is to provide residents and community leaders with an interactive online tool that enables them to visualize their performance against key indicators of livability. Again, the objective is just how we reach all these goals by motivating state and local changes in policy planning and investment, by informing key stakeholders, by encouraging community members to participate in the decision makings and help community members become more communities become more livable for residents of all ages. Overall livability score captures the complexity of what produce a high quality of life for a diverse population across many ages in 7 categories. The livability index scores every neighborhood. Again, we have probably more than 200,000 Black group neighborhood in the US. And we score every neighborhood and community in the United States on a scale of 0 to 100, where 50 is the midpoint. And community that scores above 50 is above average. Your score is relative to every other neighborhood in the US based on a single point in time. We consider this a neighborhood level index because scores are built from ground up. We collected data at the neighborhood level, and we first score the neighborhood and roll up to the other geographic level, to the city, to the zip code, to the county, to the state. Each of 7 categories measures 3 to 5 attributes of livability. As we see here, housing, we focus on housing accessibility, housing options, and housing affordability. And for transportation, convenient transportation options, and of course, affordable transportation options, safe streets accessibility. For engagement, internet access, civil engagement, social engagement, equal rights. So these are the attributes we focus when we collect the livability data. Our index includes 61 indicators of livability spread across 7 categories shown here. These are housing, neighborhood, transportation, environment, health, engagement, and opportunity. We score each of these categories in the same way, on a scale of 0 to 100, building from the neighborhood level, and there's a wider range of category scores. We do see neighborhoods and even cities with a perfect category score, but no community in the United States scores 100 on all categories. That means there is always room for improvement. Our 61 indicators are broken into metrics and policies. 40 of our indicators are what we call metrics. These measures what is on the ground today, such as you see here for the housing category, we measure zero-step entrance, availability of the multifamily housing cost burden, availability of the subsidized housing. These are the metrics. Our 21 policy indicators are more aspirational. They include local and state policies and programs that will help a community become more livable over time. In this case, I think this is Madison. They already passed the city law around the local housing trust funds, and then Madison is a member of the network age-friendly initiative at the city level. Last but not least, these are we call community characteristics. We do list race and ethnicity information. We have age 50 plus, age 65 plus percentage. We have number of population with a disability, life expectancy, household without vehicle percentage, median household income, number of population with income below poverty, and upward mobility. Last year, we added climate data as well. We are considering to add as a new data, native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islanders, and 2 or more races information in addition to those. Remember, these are again do not contribute to livability scores. These are just additional information to the index. At this point, what I'd like to do, play a video first, and then do the live demo.
Where you live matters. From big cities to small towns, quality of life is built by an intricate combination of services and features that support people of all ages and create community. This is livability. Livability is interconnected, with a foundation rooted in affordability, accessibility, and availability. The AARP Livability Index is an interactive assessment tool that uses research-backed data to score every neighborhood and community in the United States. The index assesses how well a community meets the present and future needs of people of all ages. At its core, the index measures 61 indicators across 7 categories of livability: housing, neighborhood, transportation, environment, health, engagement, and opportunity. Livability is not stagnant. It requires continued action. The Livability Index aims to empower individual residents, local officials, business leaders, and community advocates to adapt their cities so that residents of all ages can stay active and engaged in community life. Everyone has a role to play in livability, and by better understanding our community's features and amenities, individuals can make informed decisions about where to live. Community leaders can identify gaps. Policymakers can evaluate neighborhood services to improve the quality of life for residents. For individuals, community leaders, policymakers, or local organizations, the Livability Index provides clear data, useful resources, and customizable features. The index aims to help prospective residents decide where to live, prepare communities for an aging population, encourage advocacy for livability improvements in communities. Key features of the index include the ability to view a side-by-side comparison of up to 3 locations, compare livability performance across indicators for any location, customize your community's livability score according to personal preferences, share your community's livability and category scores, learn about solutions to improve your community's score, and much more. To learn more about the Livability Index, its features, and additional resources, visit aarp.org/livabilityindex or follow us on Twitter @AARP Policy.
I can pause here if there's any question. Otherwise, I will jump into live demo. See here. All right, perfect. So what I would like to do, just copy paste this website first. Oh, it's already there. Thank you. Appreciate that. And I will start. Let me make it a little bigger. When you go to website, you will see the search bar. This is just simple search by entering your exact full address or city or state or zip code or county. We'll get back to that. And a little bit advanced search, we have all explore all communities option, and also there's a community finder quiz. We will go through this. And starting last release, this was updated on October 31st of 2023. We start publishing top performing communities, 25 each community population size by population size. You will see there are many communities from your state you should be proud of for by each population size category. So let's make it a little bigger, and for very large communities, 500,000 and above population, Dane County ranked number 3. And let's see if we have any other communities. And definitely large communities, Madison is the first place. And I think we have more. Yes. And however, let's see, I thought there was one more, maybe in the mid-sized population. We have La Cruz as a city, and I remember one more, yeah, Wasu and Fitchburg. And in the small size, 5,000 and 25,000 population, I remember at least one community, maybe not, but again, all these communities listed according to the total score by the population size. What I'd like to do, go back to the search and enter a community from your state and see this is the total score, and it gives you the range of the lowest to the highest and then average when it comes down to all cities in the United States. Madison total score is 67, which is above 50, which place Madison in top half of the communities in the United States. So these are category scores, as I mentioned. Total score is the average of 7 category scores. We'll get into detail, so there's an explanation for each category, and then I will show you the metrics and policies behind that number. So this is the community characteristic, as I mentioned. Again, the race and ethnicity, other information, and climate data just introduced. You can click to the map and see by the color legend, and you can zoom in and out, and also you can select different scores, by category scores, by specific metrics, how the numbers and colors change. What I'd like to do, go back and show you how you can compare communities. So there's a comparison tool. So since you look at the Madison, maybe we would like to compare with Milwaukee. And maybe we want to add another communities that you would like to compare. If you notice, it lists the category score, and also there's a chance to look at at the metrics and policy level, how these communities are compared in terms of the metrics and then policies side by side. All right. I know I'm giving out a lot of information. You can stop me anytime. But what I would like to show you next, the new feature, explore all communities. When you click on this, it will take you to this site where you can specify your criteria. For example, I want to search specific location. So from Milwaukee, I am planning to move and I want to search a place within 50 miles and then identify, narrow down this 290 result. I'm interested moving to mid-sized community, probably it's less now, already 27. And there are specific livability measures that I'm interested. I'm definitely after the safe transportation. Let's see how this number changed now. And you can also add other, uh, metrics into the filter, whatever way you want to filter. And I'm interested in the high school graduation rate because I have kids. So by this way, what you have now, narrow communities that you can pick from. You can sort this by overall score, by category score as well, even from the distance, from the location that you identify here. You can clear the filter, you can add more filter, you can, delete filters, and you can expand your options and find out what are possible communities that you are planning to move. Even easier to search. And now we added the quiz. So you can start putting, okay, I would like to put my criteria. And now this time, again, we can put Milwaukee again. I want to do 50 miles. Now there are questions, which community size you are interested. I will put mid-size and large. And next question, what do you want to spend monthly on housing? 4,000 is too much. Let's limit to 3,000. And it will tell you, select 2 elements of livability are most important to your lifestyle. In this case, I will select, I want definitely safe and convenient transportation and safe neighborhood with proximity to parks and libraries and jobs, etc. So it limits you to, otherwise you may end up getting 0 results. So you can always change it back to other criteria if you choose to. And next question, and what's your personal level of priority that your community has many features and services for people with different abilities? Again, you can select either. At this point, let me put this as a low and then see the result. This is the summary of your quiz criteria, and I would like to see the result. Hopefully it's not 0. I'm hoping to get some yes. So here's 24. Again, there is an option to deselect filtering criteria depending on what you like to do. If you are curious about where are these data coming from, I'm sure some of you will ask that question. So we collect data from 50 different sources, mostly public source, but some private as well. If you click on each category, you will see detailed explanation, what we measure, what it indicates, and scale, and how we should interpret this, if there is any missing data, if the data comparable to the previous release, and why we use this metrics, and more importantly, the source. So those information available for every single indicator. Remember, we have 40 metrics, 21 policies, and 22 community characteristics. If you have any question, concern, and there's an option to go back to the main page, and you can I think it's after the resources. There's a contact us option. If you have, yes, if you see any data missing from your communities, or if you have any specific question or data requests, you can submit this through this form. It will, give you option why you are contacting us and go from there. So I think that's all I want to say. I will pause here and see if there's any question.
I'm not seeing any additional questions in the chat, so I think it would be fine to pass it on to Darrin and can hear a little bit what's happening on his projects locally.
Perfect.
Reminder, if you have a comment or a question, to put it in the chat. Thank you.
Darrin?
Yeah, so thanks, Suleyman, for giving us the overview of the Livable Communities Index. While Suleyman is a colleague of mine and based in Washington, D.C., I based here in Madison and work all around the state. And just wanted to take an opportunity to share a little bit what this looks like in Wisconsin. What are we doing? First, we are actively engaged with members of our network of age-friendly communities. These are these 13 communities listed here. For anybody who's not familiar with the age-friendly network, there is no charge to join the network, and it isn't by joining the network you're not listed as like a Tree City USA. It's more aspirational because we recognize that becoming age friendly is a process. None of our communities are there in its entirety, and it's something we all have to work towards. And it's just saying that as a community you prioritize policy and planning to make your community age friendly. So I'm going to focus a little bit on some of these communities that we have listed here and just share what we're doing there. So next slide, please. We'll start in Appleton. They had joined the network a few years ago, and last year we had a chance to engage in a couple of different ways. When they first joined the network, we worked with Congress to New Urbanism and provided a code audit for Appleton, just looking at all of the codes that are out there and how that relates to creating an age-friendly community or livable community. And then Congress to New Urbanism and their contractor provided some recommendations on what that looks like. Last year, we were able to engage with Appleton in a couple of different ways. The first was we brought a gentleman by the name of Jonathan Stalls. He has a TikTok and Instagram feed called Pedestrian Dignity, and he is a walking artist that has a heart and a passion for creating dignity for all pedestrians, especially those with differing abilities. Jonathan got into this by taking a walk across the United States. And through that, he was able to experience what people all across the US experience when trying to access there. You know, recognizing that in Wisconsin, a little bit under 40% of the population does not have access to a car, does not drive. And so what does life look like for those folks? What does it look like when they travel down the street or try to access public spaces? So our folks in Appleton got all of a great collection of city leaders together, and we walked the streets. We walked a couple different corridors, and then we came back and brainstormed of where those opportunities existed to improve the pedestrian areas for folks. Next slide, please. In Appleton, it also provides an opportunity for local advocacy. We recognize with AARP Wisconsin that if we're going to help our communities or encourage our communities to really move towards the livable direction or age-friendly direction, that AARP has to do some of really what it does best, and that's advocacy. And so we're really strong on the national and the state level for advocacy on some of our bread and butter issues like pharmacy prescription prices or Medicare or Social Security, but we're now moving into the realm of the areas of livable. And so last year we worked with Appleton as they wanted to reconfigure College Avenue, and they were getting a little bit of pushback from the community about what that looks like as they're taking out some lanes there. But they knew that it was going to be a positive benefit for the community. And so we had just gone and shared some information with our members in the area. We'd gone and submitted comments to one of the boards there in Appleton and really encouraged them to move forward with it. They were proposing it as a pilot. And we know our research shows the benefits of reducing lanes and reducing the traffic that it has for the people who aren't in cars. And so we want to encourage them to do that. And ultimately they've passed it. Anecdotally, we've heard some members in the area who said that they were not so sure about the policy in the beginning. And now after having lived a summer through it, they really like being able to walk downtown. And so that's anecdotal. I know that I think it was an 18-month pilot. And so we're really looking forward to see what Appleton produces when that is all done. Next slide, please. And now we'll move on to lacrosse. Jonathan, when he was in Wisconsin last year, we moved from Appleton to lacrosse, and we worked with the lacrosse committee for citizens with disabilities and held a pedestrian dignity walk. And this was on Rose Street, just south of the interstate in lacrosse. And it was a particular problem area that it connects a neighborhood and residential area with a park across the street right along the Mississippi River. And we were able to experience what it was like crossing Rose Street. I can honestly say I've worked in lacrosse for a number of years, and I've never crossed it until this point. And so looking at it, we had some folks who were with guide dogs, we had some visually impaired folks who were walking with canes, other people who were using mobility devices. And you recognize that I recognized as being an able-bodied, adult, I could barely make it across the cross street in the time allotted, let alone somebody who's going to move a little bit slower. And I understand that's our friends at Wisconsin Department of Transportation, so we'd love to be able to have a conversation with them how we improved it. We also moved into this experience a little bit further down on George Street and trying to access a quick trip where one of the residents with us is, she lost her sight a few years ago and lives on the other side of George Street and had used Quick Trip as a convenience store. But her guide and coach for dealing or navigating life without her sight had advised her never to cross there again, just because of the way it was. And everybody has a right to mobility and everybody has a right to safe mobility. And we shouldn't ever enforce policies that move that. And so this walk really was able to move that forward. Next slide, please. In lacrosse, we also do a lot with intergenerational connections. The Livability Index and part of the 8 domains of livability are looking for social inclusion. And we have awesome partners in UW lacrosse that get us together multiple times for connecting the college students with community members. Last February through April, we hosted a Walk with an Eagle, where it was a 45-minute social walk with students from the therapy recreation department. And they just were paired with community members, and it gave them a time to walk slowly and listen and connect with those community members. And we're getting ready to launch the same program here next week. Next Tuesday is the official launch date for that. Then that parlayed into a whole nother discussion that had nothing to do with walking, but it was on Social Security and retirement. And we called it Seniors Talking to Seniors. We provided dinner to help spur the conversation, but we had our seniors in college talking with seniors in a community about what it was like for Social Security. What are things that they have to be mindful of? And these are conversations that the senior students have said they'd never had in their life with family members, and they really appreciate the opportunity. And we're going to be scheduling more in 2024 based on the positive feedback. Next slide, please. And then local advocacy in lacrosse as well. I was just in 2 meetings over the last couple of evenings there to really add AARP support behind a proposed accessory dwelling unit ordinance. We recognize accessory dwelling units as an opportunity to provide a more economical stay for somebody, as opposed to an assisted living facility where we can have caretakers living in an ADU, or maybe the original homeowner moving to the ADU and having family or caretaker moving in the main house. It also provides an opportunity to gain some rental income from that. And so AARP, as a general policy, wholeheartedly supports ADUs, and we're honored to be able to work with La Crosse and be able to provide comments and encourage our members. We sent, here's a copy of not only the comments we sent out, but also emails that we sent to our members. We sent out about 1,600 emails throughout there. We did a series of successions, educational emails, why ADUs are important, what are some things to look at, why La Crosse is doing a great thing here. And then we encourage them to contact their elected officials and submit comments for those committee meetings. Next slide, please. In Milwaukee, my colleague Amber has done a bang-up job on multiple different aspects in Milwaukee. Jonathan, here he is pictured again. We had a 5-mile walk from the south side of Milwaukee up through into the downtown with a number of Hispanic and Latino organizations that we had learned had existed for a number of years, but nobody really ever talked to each other. And so over this course of 5 miles, it really is, there's something happens when you're walking shoulder to shoulder with somebody. It gives you a connection, and you have an opportunity to really connect with them in a way you haven't before. And so some great things have happened in the year after this. Also, during this time, Amber has been working with the Armani Neighborhood and Dominican Center to really address the epidemic of speeding cars in that neighborhood and the problem that it faced. As a matter of fact, when they were out there on a walk with the county executive, they had just completed their walk, and a pedestrian was hit by a car as somebody was speeding there. It was an older resident who was crossing to go to a funeral, and he got hit by a car. And so they were able to get help to him there. But from that, we had an idea of working with groups, the Armani Neighborhood Group and the Dominican Center, as well as Wisconsin Bike Fed and the city of Milwaukee, to do a temporary traffic calming measure circle in one of the intersections. So AARP paid for the installation of that and are recording data to see how it goes. The initial results are pretty positive on its being able to slow traffic down. So we hope to be able to take that out even further. This had parlayed into some other opportunities within Milwaukee. The City Department of Public Works had received an AARP Community Challenge grant last year to deploy similar things throughout the city. And so we're looking forward to what happens there. Next slide, please. And lastly, I just wanted to chat about Stevens Point. This is one of our newest members of the Network of Age-Friendly States and Communities, and they also wrote a community challenge grant last year, and we funded a number of benches for their transit system. You know, having a place to sit is pretty important while you're waiting for a bus. Now, you happen to see us, we're right in the middle of snow as these benches were just installed, so probably it would be a little bit better even if we had a shelter over it, but we'll start with benches first, giving somebody an opportunity to sit while they wait for the bus. Again, this was a community challenge grant, and which is open right now, and I'll share a little bit more information about that in a moment. So this is just sort of a highlight, high-level highlight of some of the work that's happening in our age-friendly communities. Within the city of Madison, we've done some deeper dives into understanding just the affordable housing situation. At the end of last year, we worked with a group called Eco Northwest to do a survey of missing middle, where in Madison isn't missing middle housing allowed? There was an article by Strong Towns last year that said, where in America is missing middle housing not missing? And they listed Madison, Wisconsin. And anybody who's familiar with the city would say, yeah, probably on the isthmus, that's correct. But there are many vast parts of the city where missing middle housing does not exist. And the goal is to look at how do we make that happen there. So diving a little bit deeper there in Madison. Next slide, please. And so I wanted to take an opportunity just to share some of the resources, if you're not familiar with the livable community resources that AARP has. Here's just some snapshots of the title. You go to aarp.org/livable. You can see all of the resources. These are always available for free. As a download, you can download them as the PDFs. You can also order a copy online. If there is a title that you would like more than one copy, our fulfillment department doesn't really have a mechanism for making that happen, but you can reach out to me at the state office and we can make sure you get multiple copies that you have. Many of these we have here in our office. Some of them we might have to order, so it might take us a little bit longer. So always please give us a little bit of lead time if you know that you want something, so that we can make sure that we have them for you. Next slide, please. And I mentioned Community Challenge Grant a number of times, and we are full swing in the middle of our application period. It opened up a couple of weeks ago and goes through the beginning of March. And so if you would love some more information about Community Challenge, that is on the website there. It's aarp.org/community challenge. I've also given a QR code if you want to scan that. But many people might not be familiar that we have our own grant here in Wisconsin. We call it Small Dollar Big Impact. And we started this back in June of 2020 because I have been working in community development for close to 25 years now. And I've been on multiple ends of the table and talking about projects. And time after time, I'd hear, oh, we want to do this. And then they find out it's going to cost $250,000. And therefore we do nothing because we don't have $250,000. And coming from an entrepreneurial background, and the whole concept of how do we do something in scale and produce a minimum viable product, I challenge any community to say, how do we do something for $1,000? Maybe $2,000 if you can raise a local match, but we give away $1,000 a month. It's a short application. There's 4 or 5 questions. We understand it's $1,000. We don't want you to write a treatise and spend a whole lot of time on it. But tell us why, what your project is. We do encourage you and actually do require you for any of your project that they reference some of our materials that you would get from our resource library. We think that they're a great resource and helping you plan, and we really want to be able to highlight those and encourage you to use those. And I have this quote on here from a gentleman by the name of Aaron Dignan, who says, do a radical thing on a non-radical scale. And that is just embodies the spirit of small dollar, big impact. So coming up, the deadlines are always the 3rd Tuesday of the month. Whatever, 11:59 p.m. We always start to look at them on Wednesday. But these are, and we do encourage you to say, we'd like you to be able to use the money within 60 days. Because we do give them away monthly, we don't want to tie up those monies that could be used for somebody else. And so if you have a project that you plan to launch in the next 60 days, encourage you to check out aarp.org/WISDBI for small dollar big impact and submit an application, or if you have any questions, always happy to answer those. Next slide. I think that might be it. Yes. So wow, right on time. We said 12:45, and that's where we like to go. So I got it right in under the wire.
Great.
Awesome. This is exciting because I obviously, as I mentioned, I share your resources both in my class and some of my other projects that I work on. And people are always surprised the depth of information that's available, specifically with all your resources. So Darrin, the challenge, I believe, is for a specific project, right? The Community Challenge Grant. If they want to work directly with you, is there a fee for that? How do they do that?
There's no fee. All of our services are always free. You never have to be a member of AARP to engage us. You can reach out to my office, and I can drop it in the chat, my email address or phone number, so that people can reach me here in Madison.
Okay, thank you. Because I know that's a question I get sometimes, and I assume that's across all the states, wherever there's a representative, that
Right.
it's free to reach out and be active. So I'm
Yeah,
not seeing-
usually if to find a contact at your state office, one of the easiest ways is always aarp.org/ and then the 2-letter state abbreviation, and that'll get you the website for the state office that you can reach out and contact them.
Okay. We don't have any other questions right now. What I do want to say is that Blythe will be putting a survey link in here before anybody drops off. So tell us what you thought about today's presentation, but also give us some ideas of topics that you would like us to reach out to people and engage them for our fall lecture series. So we'd love your feedback. And thanks so much to Blythe. You can see all the links that she's been providing for you as a great resource, and she will send those out in a follow-up email as well when the video recording is available. But I give a question for either of you. What topics, besides, I think the walkability is really a common topic, are there other elements that you see are the most I think challenging for communities to deal with? Is it not just crossing a busy street, but the lack of benches or the lack of infrastructure? are there sort of a top 3 issues that you would say communities should be looking at to address in their communities to make sure it's more livable?
Yeah, I think the number one thing that I see is how do we decenter the automobile in our planning? I'm not anti-car. I'm actually a gearhead. I love automobiles. But when I move about Madison, I love taking the bus or riding my bike or walking even more. I love the road trip of an automobile. And I also recognize that, you know, especially since World War II and even since the dawn of the automobile, we have really centered that at all of our city planning, and we've modified our built environment to do that. And so I think when you do that and start looking at how do we raise up the people who are not in an automobile and put them as priority over the ones in cars, then I think that helps things, and that helps with, you know, providing, make sure there's safe routes and we're slowing the traffic down. I'd give a shout out. I do serve on Madison's Transportation Commission, and last year they had enacted the Complete Green Streets Guide and a priority pyramid where people walking or rolling using mobility devices are at the very top in all that we do when we look at projects. And I encourage, you know, communities to do that. I recognize that there are many places where that's not feasible, or there's things outside of your control. So, you know, doing it to the best of your ability, I think is always my advice. And being able to walk, you know, we're happy to work with folks. And if you want to do a pedestrian dignity experience, we won't be bringing Jonathan back in 2024, but we'll look to do it in 2025. And so either that, or we're happy to help you kind of organize a walk, and just, you know, especially working with a local disability rights advocate group, take a walk with them and understand what they deal with on an everyday basis.
I think the walks are so important. I know when I've done Jane's walks, people see things they don't normally
Yes.
see. And even if you've driven by them 100 times, having a conversation and doing it from a walking scale is very different.
It
So
absolutely is.
there is a question beyond the livability index scores. Are there certain activities or policies that cities are doing nationwide that you think are the best examples?
I think I can piggyback to the Darrin talking about the walkability. So I think the complete street policies. So my personal experience walking in the middle of the DC every day, at least a few days per week, you can see the big impact. You know, there are designated signs and there are signs for the pedestrian. The complete street policy is the big. The other one is Darrin mentioned ADU, and other one for the policy, city planners or TOD, transit oriented development. Those are the big things. I think the communities, from the livability index point of view, if you have those policies, it's additional 1 point to each category.
Yeah, I think Complete Streets has been encouraging. There's so many more cities that are doing that. For those who do not have policies, complete street policies, what are the resistance factors that you're hearing? Why do they not have them? Either of you?
I haven't heard, I mean, I haven't dealt with anybody who's tried to enact it. I know, you know, we had it as a statewide policy at one time here, and now it doesn't exist anymore. But for those communities that that have enacted it, I do know that AARP had worked with Smart Growth America to do a survey of all of the complete streets policies out there and their effectiveness. And I believe as of like this week or that last week, that was all just released on our website. So I will look for the link for that. I just remember seeing something that, you know, went into my inbox about that, and happy to share. And that compares all of the policies around the United States for every community, so that people can see if it's something that your community is talking about, what better way than to see what works and what hasn't worked by looking at others and see where they've learned from them.
That would be a great resource. What I had heard years ago, not so much recently, was just, the agreement on a policy side, from maintenance to the planning and design of it. So the engineering working with the planning languages, but most of that I believe has been overcome, and there's lots of great resources. So examples of how you can adapt that. So
I know conversations in Madison's transportation commissions when we talk about street widths always comes down to fire trucks, and I just roll my eyes every time. But that's a bigger policy discussion for our city council to take up at some point in time.
Yeah, the other comment posted by Susan here is just the cost to implement. But I think when we have more examples of cities that have done that, and they can show that the cost is not an eliminating factor there, right? It doesn't eliminate those options. So I think that'll be good resources to have as well. Oh yes, Charlie in La Crosse. Design for snowplow drivers. Yes, well, you can see those cities that are adding more bump outs. There is always a learning curve, and we do live in Wisconsin. For those of us here in the Midwest, that hasn't changed throughout my career. So I don't want to keep people if they don't have other questions or comments, but I found this really informative. I think the main message also is having the conversation. So I don't know if you have a full plate for the coming year of communities that you're working with. How does that work for you, Darrin, and maybe for other states to get on your queue? Does your time fill up, or how do you prioritize where you're going in the state?
Yeah, we prioritize working with our network of age-friendly communities first and foremost because they've already made the deeper commitment to move stuff along. We have some folks there who've been a part of the network since 2015, and then others who are brand new. And so we get to engage them in different ways. If that's something you're interested, we encourage probably no more than 3 communities a year to apply. Right now, we don't have any in the queue for Wisconsin for this year. And that gives us, make sure we have the bandwidth in order to provide some hands-on state technical assistance and coaching for them as they get going. And we always encourage the communities to talk to us first before you make out the application, because we can really help shorten the learning curve once the clock starts tipping on the joining the network there. So always like to have advanced opportunity to work with the community.
Great, thanks for that update. So I guess I'm encouraged, and I would have everybody who's attended, if you haven't already jumped online, to take a look at the city that you live in. How is it ranked? And I especially like the comparisons that the index provides, so you can compare. I would believe that this is being used as a tool by realtors to sell communities, and if it's not currently used, they will be exploring it. So the more word we get out as we're planning vibrant cities, I think this is another great resource, and thank you to AARP for being an open source free resource in most cases. That makes it much more accessible. So thank you to both of you. Appreciate your
realtors. We do have agreement with the National Association of the Realtors, so we do share livability index data to them, and they share with their clients. So
good. So it's already happening. I think the other, yeah. So I think the goal right now is how do we increase our numbers, right? Wherever we live, how do we shift it a little bit higher? What do we need to do? So I appreciate those resources as well. So thank you to both of you.
Yeah, Wisconsin is an exemplary state, and you guys have already top performing communities. So we would like to see more coming years. Thank you.
Great. We hear the challenge. We'll take it. All right, thanks to both of you, and reminder that our next Innovative Cities lecture will be February 21st. We're going to have somebody talk about the high-speed rail, sort of the passenger rail, where are we at, both nationally and locally on that topic. So thank you and have a good week, and AICP CM will be coming out hopefully in the next week or so for you to log your hours. See you at the next one.
Thanks for your teach.
All right.